it's a challenge. So I think it's certainly a viable question because the Saints can't afford to have them let down, though. So I think it's a big issue that let's see, week 10, week 11, let's see where they are. Because in college you get multiple bye weeks. Look, LSU's on their second bye week. They're gearing up for Alabama. But, yeah, it's something that I think is certainly a viable question.
Only play 12 games in college usually, maybe 13 if you get in the playoff. And NFL, you could go 20 games easy with preseason. And these rookies are playing a lot in the preseason because they're trying to learn the system. So, yeah, it's definitely a viable question. And the fact that the Saints are leaning on so many rookies to play big primary roles for them that maybe other teams in the league aren't.
Absolutely. So let's lay out the rest of the show. Josh Katzenstein, as we just alluded to, his report on Michael Thomas, that we will talk with him around 10:30. Brett Martell of the Associated Press will join us top of the 11 o'clock hour as we will talk with him. Look, he covers all things Louisiana sports, so we'll talk with him about the Saints, we'll talk with him about the Pelicans, we'll talk with him about LSU, and even Tulane. Look, he was at Tulane, South Florida with me last Saturday, and I can tell you tomorrow we're going to be talking with Ty Grappanini, who is in full-out panic mode since he's Dodgers fan, and Dodgers in epic failure fashion gave up the lead last night to the Astros, and that series is 1-1. But we'll talk with him tomorrow because they'll be playing Memphis, at Memphis, another ranked opponent 2 weeks in a row for the Green Wave. They'll play tomorrow night on a Friday, and of course you can listen to that on your flagship station of all things Tulane football here at Sports 1280, and you can check out what's going to happen with them. So we'll talk with him tomorrow, and also just heads up, I know, Jeff, we got a really exciting guest tomorrow, and I'm going to leave that as a mystery. I'll do that maybe at the end of the show.
Little tease.
We've got a pretty stud-tacular guest tomorrow lined up, and I'm looking forward to it because I'll just say this, he's one of my, say, top 5 all-time favorite interviewers in the Saints locker room because of his candor and just flat-out honesty.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree 100%. Looking forward to catching up
with him. Don't say who it is. Don't you do it.
All we've given any kind of, I guess, hint is
don't do it.
That he played for the Saints. That's
all
you know.
That's all I got.
That really narrows it down.
So it might be Jason David. It might be Todd Bauman. It might be one of the Billy Joes.
Well, I think by deductive reasoning, you know it's not Brandon Browner because he would not have made our top 5.
Is he still in jail?
I don't know.
He's gone to jail twice in the last 6 months on, I forget, one was on cocaine charges and the other one was...
If you had to say your bottom 5, who would your bottom 5 be? Can we talk about that on the air?
Of course we can.
Mine would be, Shockey would have been in
Shockey's on there. There's
Shockey
no question about it.
He was awkward to interview and also could be very difficult to nail down and also sometimes could be a jerk.
I'm just going to, you say jerk, I'd say turd.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh, turd.
Careful, this is still radio.
He would get the poop emoji. That's what he would get.
Kyle Turley back in the day, this is before your time on the beat.
I didn't cover Kyle.
He was Shockey-like, but almost scarier. I mean, Turley was he's a great guy now. Now that he's out of the league, great to deal with. Very intelligent guy, but back then, man, he was full of rage. And as evidenced by his play against the New York Jets where he ripped the helmet off of a New York Jet and threw it across the field. He was a scary dude. We had some run-ins.
Okay, who else? That's it. Shockey and
well, no, Brandon Browner. Brandon Browner.
Brandon Browner was.
And I had very few dealings with him, but he was just
awful,
worthless,
awful, awful on the field, awful off the field. So much so where he would torpedo interviews when we would be speaking to someone else, and I can remember specifically one player saying, look, man, I could speak for myself. And he was just trying to be professional and answer the questions, and he was trying to duck in and be a clown, and it was just obnoxious.
Well, that's what happened in the run-in. It was pretty well publicized between him and Lyons Yellen at WWL. Lyons Yellen was talking to someone else in the locker room, interviewing another defensive back, and Brandon Browner interjected and started a big fracas kind of standoff that he wasn't even involved in. It had nothing to do with him. and he inserted himself into the equation. Yeah, good riddance for Brandon Browner.
I could say someone who, at least me publicly, that it sounds like I had a bad relationship with, and I don't think we did, but we had a set of
what do you
unfortunate.
mean you don't think you did?
We had a set of unfortunate circumstances with myself and one Green Bay Packers current guard, Jari Evans.
Oh,
that was a set of unfortunate circumstances there with the old
par for the course, though. Sometimes, right?
Well, I should have known better.
Sometimes it happens, though. I mean, you get into run-ins. It happens in the business, but I think Jari Evans is one of those professional guys that kind of moves on. Maybe I'm wrong, but
well, once he gets into the Saints Hall of Fame, should we go induct him, and I should wear the Pulitzer badge from the Biloxi Sun Herald?
You'll still have your mullet from this year because you're going to like it and stick to it.
I talked about that last night as we go to break right here on the show. I talked about that last night that there's a countdown that 6 games away from me having a shaved head. But if they get 10 wins quick, I won't have a mullet. It'll just still be short, and you'll just have to shave my head. And I'm not going to do it Bic style. I'm not doing that, by the way. No.
What do you mean Bic style?
We'll just do
shears.
Yeah,
we'll shear it down.
I'm not going to be like Mr. Clean. I'm not doing that.
No, we're going to get like some of the shears they use like at the veterinarian or whatever. At the
veterinarian?
Dog groomer or
What?
whatever, yeah. Yeah, you've been to the vets when they have to do like a surgery. They have the shears. Same thing, I guess.
I don't have pets. I don't know. I've never been to
Oh,
a
okay,
vet.
yeah. Well, same thing, but
We should call Lloyd Christmas. We talked about him before the show started. Lloyd Christmas, dog groomer, right? Can we do that?
Yes, that's true.
Absolutely, we'll do that. So, Josh Katzenstein coming up in 10 minutes. But look, the Pelicans played tonight, and they've made another addition to the roster. We'll talk about that coming up here next on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Clyde's here, Jeff's here, Dave's there, I'm here. We're Dunc and Holder.
Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword BILLS to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's BILLS to 200-200.
The passion.
Inbound to Frazier, left wing 3.
Down low on an elbow. What a pass.
Left elbow, alley-oop down low. Blake Paul layup. Good.
The excitement.
Floats it up. Good. At the buzzer, it counts. Top Reynolds, wide open 3. Buried it.
The thrill. Tulane basketball returns on Friday,
That's the
November
man.
10th here on the Tulane IMG Sports Network.
my favorite part is when they get a bad call. I mean, he has no bones about it. Oh my God! You know,
When Brett and I sit next to each other at the Tulane USF game, both have headsets on just to hear Todd's reaction. And it was a play behind, so you knew. Grab the headset, pop it on, because you just want to hear his reaction. It's glorious.
yeah, when they get a call, it's like the most egregious affront to college
Sports in general.
to college football, and you know, this guy, the official should be arrested right away.
On TV, and it's
Center of the device that can be used at home to deliver life-saving naloxone.
really do count an opioid emergency. And that's why
Hell, I
it's so
think that's the only
important
reason
to
why I
have
wear
access
the
to
Angry Wave hat, just in
law.
honor of him.
Yeah,
Auto-injector
awesome
to
hat.
be able,
Yeah.
like an AED, render quick aid.
Edward says the auto-injector actually talks you through it. It's available through Kaleo Pharma, the Virginia drug company he co-founded, and he says if your insurance won't pay for it, Kaleo will give it to you free of charge. He says it's a way of giving back in light of CDC statistics showing 91 Americans die each day of opioid overdoses. Chelsea La Liberté lost her 20-year-old brother Alex to a heroin overdose 9 years ago.
Naloxone would have
this is
absolutely
uplifting.
changed my
Yeah,
life.
seriously, who decided to put this on? This is terrible.
Health update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
Oh, heroin overdose.
Each morning before you wake, you dream of breakfast like mom used to make. Eggs, bacon, potatoes too. Can't wait to eat all this amazing food. Then the alarm bell rings and no one's cooking you anything. Real life is hard when your morning is hell. Have breakfast with a fried eggshell.
Introducing the new Naked Egg Taco. Crispy bacon, seasoned potatoes, and melty cheese wrapped in a fried egg shell. Only at Taco Bell. At participating stores for a limited time during breakfast hours.
If you're a pro, you don't buy a little of this or that. You buy a lot of this or that. And at the Home Depot, you save even more. Save up to 15% at bulk discounts on select pro-grade products.
Oh, yeah, but
from
talking
top
to Cam
brands like
yesterday
3M,
when the herd
Loctite,
left
and
about
Liquid
Akeem,
Nails.
he was...
As a pro,
All right, 10 seconds.
Great.
you shouldn't have to work hard to
I remember
save
you said
it.
something about a
Up
bag
to
of chips.
15%
Yeah, but
at
no,
bulk
he other
discounts
stuff,
on
he was
select
just
pro-grade
he was
products.
great. Like,
only at the Home Depot. More
great.
saving.
Do you like him or not?
See store
oh, yeah,
for
he says he
details.
talks to him like...
Yeah, I thought they were friends.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I guess the Pelicans want to be the senior citizen tour. Is that right, Jeff? Your look of just, oh my gosh.
On what?
When I mention who the Pelicans have agreed to terms with and will have playing for them Josh Smith. No team, former All-Star. They signed Josh Smith to a non-guaranteed deal using an injury hardship exception. Source told our own Will Guillory, who's covering the Pelicans, they played a night in Sacramento, and that's because, look, Anthony Davis is hurt, and so now they're just treading water. And I didn't realize how far Josh Smith has apparently fallen. I just figured he was a kind of a perennial all-star, and now he's just a
No, he's a
has-been.
Journeyman. I mean, they're picking
Has-been
up.
is probably too strong of a word,
They're
but I
picking
mean,
up-
What is the laughter? He's probably like a 4 or 5 time all-star, right?
yeah, like
Back when at the Hawks days. Right?
yeah, like
But
almost 10
he's
years
not
ago
that
now.
old.
You're right, but
No,
I mean,
act like he's
relatively.
50.
It doesn't take long to drop off in the NBA.
no. And,
Look,
it's terrible that the last time that we talked about him, and the last memorable thing that most of us who watch the NBA is literally him jacking up just shots from like 37 plus feet out for the Rockets and being like, all right, well, we can't make this work, so later, bro.
yeah, he's Journeyman. They're just pulling bodies off the scrap heap right now. Jameer Nelson, I like that signing because he's a terrific leader, a guy that can, I think, be a glue guy in the locker room for this team. I like that pickup. But
I do too.
But I don't know what he's going to add on the court.
The problem is he's playing 31 minutes, and he just got to the Pelicans. You're in that dire straits that you're picking up Jameer Nelson and playing him 31 minutes. And look, I'm wondering how quickly Josh Smith is going to play. It's like they have to have him because all they have right now is DeMarcus Cousins and Sheikh Diallo, and that's it. All of their big men are hurt or sick. I don't know. Omar Ashik, I don't know. That could be
Who knows what's going on
right,
there.
exactly.
I think they're going to have to play small ball. I mean, that's part of what the NBA is trending to right now. And look, as long as you got DeMarcus Cousins, I know they can't wear him out, but they've got enough size inside. I mean, a lot of teams don't have a DeMarcus Cousins. So they're just going to have to survive without Anthony Davis. But they're 1-3 right now. They cannot lose to the Kings tonight. They cannot. They cannot come back here 1-4. It's just going to kill their momentum and the interest level of the fan base, and they're going to be in that same hole as I've referred to in the past. I mean, pushing that boulder up the side of a mountain, and it's going to keep rolling back down. It's the same thing every year.
Absolutely. And you look at, you say don't lose DeMarcus Cousins physically. What if they go and lose at Sacramento, his old team, and you start losing DeMarcus Cousins mentally? Because that can happen.
Oh,
if Anthony Davis is out a while, and you still don't have Rajon Rondo, and things aren't going well, and you could lose him mentally quickly. Despite his all efforts on the court, he's going to try to do everything humanly possible to win this game tonight. There's no question about it, but if it starts going downhill, I don't care who you got on the team, you're going to lose him mentally. And it's teetering on that rock mountain theory you just mentioned. It's just, theory, I don't know. But well, look, you know what I'm saying.
Garrett Temple was quoted in The Undefeated today. They had a big story on
former LSU Tiger.
Yes, former LSU Tiger Garrett Temple, who's had a really fine NBA career, great defender, and he played with DeMarcus Cousins, and he is quoted in the Undefeated story by Mark Spears saying that he knows DeMarcus Cousins very well, and he can say all the politically correct things he wants to say about he's moved on, he's happy in New Orleans. He knows what this guy's going to do tonight. He's going to try and tear their heads off. I think was exactly Garrett Temple's quote. It's going to be fun to watch, fun theater.
I'm sure it's going to be awkward after they do their at some point either during the game or pre-game where they're going to honor him for all of his community service and everything that he did for the organization and the community. So I'm sure that'll make it a little bit awkward.
Well, at least the Kings are doing that because he was at times hell on earth over there. So I think you got to give some kudos to the Sacramento Kings for even doing that. But still, it's something that teetering on the edge. I really think it's teetering on the edge because Rondo's going to be out another, 8 games, 9 games? I think that's kind of the landscape. They figured he'd miss about 10 to 12 games. So I know Rondo is there literally counseling DeMarcus Cousins. He was talking to him after the Warriors game, and they certainly chat and are buddies, but still, there's only so much you can do. And do I understand his level of frustration? Sure, but DeMarcus Cousins, of course, can bring it to another level and we've seen it. And so it's funny that Will Guillory mentioned on Twitter, imagine if DeMarcus Cousins had a mouthpiece in and he fired it at an official. He'd be suspended for 6 months.
8 games.
And Steph Curry, got a fine? But yeah, that's the reputation and the temperament that he has, and I'm telling you, if this thing goes south quick, we're gonna see it.
It's a deserved reputation. It's there's a
history.
Agree. Yeah, there's a history there. I mean, the guy has had Steph Curry doesn't have the history of technical fouls and run-ins and things that DeMarcus Cousins had. There's a reason he has that reputation, and it's well deserved. But going back to our point about the Sac Kings tonight, you got to win that game because you come back home, you've got the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Smoothie King Center on Saturday night, and they just lost to the Nets. I mean, they got crushed.
Right.
They got crushed by the Nets.
They did. And they looked awful against.
Look how giddy he is.
No.
Claude's giddy. LeBron's a loser.
No. Let's get it twisted. First of all, LeBron is my president. I'm just saying it right now. LeBron is my president.
I'm a LeBron guy. I've been known before I even started working here when I was doing radio with Gus Kattengill. I was a noted LeBron guy.
Yes. The only thing I'm saying to that end is that I think what people think of the NBA specifically, what they think of the totality of the NBA, they think of February, March NBA. That's a completely different league at that point. Right now, within the first 2-3 weeks of the season, a lot of bets should be off the table. Cleveland has looked very average comparatively. I mean, they're running LeBron at the point right now. I mean, obviously Teron Lue was talking about bringing Dwayne Wade off the bench. They're
coming off the bench.
Yeah, they're struggling against the Bulls. I mean, there's a lot of things right now that are going on in the NBA of all these teams trying to figure each other out. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City is trying to figure it out. Obviously, the Warriors are still trying to figure it out.
Well, Clyde, you mentioned OKC and Cleveland. They've got a ton of new parts trying to gel together.
Right, and that's the thing of people. Well, I think people are going to give it credit for.
Well, if Anthony Davis isn't playing, it's not going to be a
competitive game. You
can't. Or Drew Holiday keeps playing like Drew Holiday. It's not going to be a competitive.
And you probably
game.
can't expect DeMarcus Cousins to score almost 40 points and play almost 40 minutes every game. You're going to wear him out real early.
I feel like they're already wearing him out. I feel like they're already doing
because you have no choice because there's no one else who can score.
You have no one else even on the roster. Actually, that's how bad it is. I mean, Let's see what happens tonight up in Sacramento. Let's take a quick break right here on the show. And, of course, you can listen to it on our sister station, Pell's Kings, tonight, 9 o'clock tip on 99.5 WRNO. Let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, Josh Katzenstein, NOLA.com, and Times-Picayune Saints beat reporter. Should I be panicked? Michael Thomas? Missed practice yesterday. And we'll get the latest from Josh on that. And he has a story yesterday on Marshawn Lattimore, who is quickly, throughout league circles, becoming known as one of the better corners already in the league, and he's only played 6 games, so we'll talk with Josh about that as well. Here, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
And we would scream together songs under the sun.
I love being panicked on the radio. Panic!
Forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
No long snapper,
This
panic!
report is brought to you by the
So are they
Exogen
saying that
Tempo
AD's not
Scanner
playing tonight?
From Weather Center, I'm
The last thing I checked from Jim yesterday was that he was questionable, and knowing how the Pelicans organization operates, they're not going to play
not as
tonight.
cold, upper 50s north,
Because I mean, it's a lower,
and Friday clouds
like an
increase
upper
late in the
lower
evening. Rain chances go up into the
muscle
overnight
or
hours at
knee
about 60 to 70%.
strain or something
Rain
like
ends
that.
early on Saturday,
So
followed by a big
they're not
drop
gonna-
in the
they're not gonna
temperatures.
risk him tonight.
Saturday's high, as we see mostly
the
cloudy
Magic.
skies,
They
but
play the
drier
Magic.
weather for the
Magic are
weekend,
3-1.
only in the upper 50s.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
the Fox 8
Magic.
Weather Center,
Didn't the
I'm
Magic
meteorologist
beat
Bruce
up,
Katz with your Weather
they
Authority
beat-
forecast.
They beat the Cavs.
Yeah.
Don't let the flu turn you into a zombie with a fever.
Yeah, the
this
Cavs are
Halloween
weird right
season.
now.
With the help of the Exogen Tempo
Yeah,
Scanner
Anthony Davis
thermometer,
left
with
knee
accuracy
quad
backed by
tendonitis is
Isaiah
being
Thomas is
listed
playing.
as
you
questionable
won't be
for
tricked
Thursday
by
night's
any
game at
spooky
Sacramento.
symptoms.
And then let's not forget national TV tonight. So it better be on in every single bar.
Check out the exotic mix of animals from around the globe. Don't miss the Watoto Walk, the playful monkeys, or the mysterious white alligators. Go to Fox Sports, AM1280.com. Keyword deal.
A truly classic fall classic in the first ever Houston Astros World Series win. They outlast the Dodgers 7-6 in 11 innings to win Game 2 of the World Series in L.A. George Springer's two-run homer in the 11th, the difference. The Astros even the best of 7 at a game apiece.
Emotional low to high to low to high again. But that's what...
All right, we got Josh.
We got Josh.
His, I don't know, his cell sounded a little weird. Maybe he just didn't have it. I don't know.
Okay, I'll text him and tell him to make sure it's a good. Maybe he's in a bad spot or something.
Yeah.
The series shifts to Houston for Game 3 tomorrow.
All right, we got 1 minute.
Quarterback Cam Newton just not feeling it with the media these days. Newton hastily walked out of his press conference Wednesday after a question regarding the Panthers' inconsistent offense. And the Steelers are benching Martavis Bryant after the disgruntled wide receiver made his feelings known through social media earlier this week.
Not a leader.
That's sports. Jay Corwin, NBC News Radio.
St. Jude continued to advance by increasing cure rates in childhood cancer. And donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
It's like the Panthers pin their hopes on him, like
I met
Saints did
someone.
with Aaron Brooks,
You
and
hear
like
it a
the
lot
Bears
from
did with
people on
Cutler.
Match because more people have met
they're,
their
like, just
someone on
stuck with
Match than any other dating app. Everyone wants to find that meaningful connection, and Match is not
Saints
only
kinda
number
did
one
that
in
with Aaron
first,
Brooks.
but second dates
That's what
too.
they
So I kept trying. Well, you said Aaron Brooks?
Yes.
Match.com/party
I heard
for
you say
7 days
Cutler.
free. That's 7
It was the
days
first
And then there was like
free.
2 other people.
All I heard was Cutler.
All right, coming back.
It's Match.com/party.
I didn't know it was that funny.
Oh, crotchety Jeff.
Learn what our insiders know about your home teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. We'll have some open segments later on, so let me give out the phone number, 504-260-1280 to get involved in the show. But join us right here on the show right now, so don't call in. Josh Katzenstein, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune Saints beat writer. And Josh, I opened up the show with a massive amount of panic. Michael Thomas is injured, missed practice yesterday. Sean Payton gave a very expansive injury report on him in today's teleconference, saying one word about long-term injuries: no. Anything else you can add to that? And without Michael Thomas, say if he doesn't play, how much of a concern should it be for Saints fans, given we know he's their number one receiver, bona fide?
Well, for the first part of your question, I'll just do my best Sean Payton impression and say no.
Love it.
I have nothing to add,
I love it.
unfortunately. But I don't think people should be too concerned. I mean, obviously, Michael Thomas being out for any amount of time would be, it would hurt the offense, but I don't think it would be devastating loss. I mean, and especially right now, this is the perfect time if he were to miss Sunday's game for him to do it because, I don't think the Bears are that good. I mean, certainly their defense is pretty solid, and they've had, good cornerback play and play in the secondary in recent weeks. But, I mean, Willie Snead practiced fully on Wednesday, so it looks like he's on track to return Ted Ginn is playing well right now. Brandon Coleman has been a more consistent target. And then, they've been getting the ball so much to Ingram and Kamara in the passing game that I think they could sustain, a Thomas absence as long as it's brief, obviously. So I wouldn't panic too much, but I know you like to get a little bit emotional, Larry.
I mean, I panicked over the long snapper. You think I'm not going to panic over this? What's the matter with you?
Yeah, how's that working
Not
out?
much. But hey, if any of those callers that want to call in, I'll just talk to them instead of you, Larry. That's fine. We talk enough.
Yeah,
Good talk, Josh. Time for you to leave the show. Just kidding.
How often do we talked about the Saints long snapper since your panic stretch there when we were going crazy about it? Has anybody brought the long snapper's name up ever?
It's been diffused
Thank
slightly.
you. All right, Josh, I got to ask you.
Do people even know his name, Jeff?
I don't think so.
I don't even know if I do, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's always a good thing. But I wanted to ask you about Marshawn Lattimore. You have a great story up about him and his impact on the defense. And I think when casual fans see the Saints draft a cornerback, they think, all right, we're going to improve the pass coverage here. But your story today, I think, illustrates how he's had an impact on the pass rush and the front seven because he's doing such a good job on the back end. It's allowing the pass rush more time to get after the quarterback. I thought that was an interesting take from Cam Jordan about how he's helped his game. So it just shows you when you add an impact cornerback, it can have an effect, almost a domino effect on the rest of the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like, obviously I haven't been here for the whole 3 years of 7 and 9, but just being here last year and hearing people talk about, 2014 and 2015 and watching them from afar, I know there was a lot of the whole chicken and egg discussion, about is it the, coverage guys that need to play better to give the pass rush more time, or is it the pass rush that needs to get home quick to help out the, coverage guys? And I think, we're sort of seeing that, it seems like the Saints just needed better coverage because they didn't really upgrade the pass rush that much this offseason. I mean, Alex Okafor has been, solid this year as a number 2 defensive end opposite Cam Jordan, but ultimately, I mean, their biggest upgrade has definitely been Lattimore. And I think you see that because quarterbacks are so scared to throw it his direction that they have to look, on the other side of the field and go through their progressions that way. And when, you have fewer options, you got to wait for one of them to get open. And in that time that you're waiting, that gives Cam Jordan or Okafor or some of the interior guys a chance to get to the quarterback, whether it's a hit or a sack. I mean, if you add 3 more quarterback hits per game or 1 more sack per game, I mean, that could be the difference in a victory because those plays are so crucial. And I think that, Lattimore is just having an effect across the whole defense. And Ken Crawley deserves a lot of credit, too. I mean, he has been playing well, and Kenny Vaccaro has been playing well. He's in coverage a lot. He's basically playing, a cross between nickel cornerback and Sam linebacker. So I mean, you give a lot of credit to a lot of guys on defense, but I think Lattimore has just been so consistent, since week 1 when everyone struggled. And I mean, he's taken out Brandon Cooks, he's taken out Devontae Adams, and he makes some of these plays that it looks like you would have no idea that he's a 21-year-old rookie. And I think people should be excited for his future.
Josh Katzenstein, NOLA.com, and the Times-Picayune Saints beat writer. Join us right here on Dunc and Holder. Definitely go check out his story on Marshawn Lattimore. Headline, Marshawn Lattimore's early dominance key to Saints' defensive turnaround. And I was over there when you were talking with Cam Jordan about Marshawn Lattimore, and the second graph in your story is great, and it's a perfect quote from Jordan. He says, when he first got here, I told him, I need you. And I think it's imperative for someone like Jordan to kind of be that leader. And like you said, you haven't been here through Jordan's career, but how much can you see, say, Cam Jordan just being that guy that people look to, turn to in this locker room? I could tell you just from my experience, he's gone from just kind of looking up to in kind of awestruck by Will Smith to now he has become that guy who is the bona fide guy that people turn to on that defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it has a lot more to do. It's not just because he's talented. I think so many guys in that locker room respect him because of just the way he plays and how much he plays. I mean, it's crazy that, someone of Jordan's stature plays over 90% of the snaps in most games. He's gotten, a few more breathers in some games this year when they've been ahead. But, I mean, I think I researched this last year. I'm pretty sure he's the only defensive lineman who has played 90% of snaps in at least the last 4 years, each of the last 4 years. And, I mean, that's just crazy. But, I mean, it goes beyond that, too. I mean, he has a contagious personality. Everyone just seems to enjoy, hanging out with him, whether they're playing video games or just talking or listening to music in the locker room. And I think you see that, when they're having these turnovers in games, whenever they're doing celebrations, Cam's always like right there or starting something. And I think, he has that kind of fun attitude that the whole defense wants to have. The problem is you can't really show that off when you're losing and having a lot of troubles. So I think, it's really good for Jordan that the defense is finally having some success so that, he can, A, get his credit, in the national spotlight that he's deserved for a few years now, and B, that, he can sort of have his attitude, actually, be out there for everyone to see.
Just real quick, I know Jeff's got another question, just to add to your point, Cam Jordan, according to Football Outsiders, he has played 92.3% of the defensive snaps this year for the Saints, and he leads the NFL among defensive linemen in snaps played. I think that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's nothing new. I mean, I think last year there were only 3 guys. It was either 2 or 3 because one of them got hurt. It was Jordan, JPP, and Olivier Vernon, both of the Giants. They were the only 3 that were playing 90% of the snaps for the majority of the year. And Jordan, that goes all the way back. I think it was either 2000. I think it was 2012 or 2011, the first year that the NFL started making snap counts available. And when I look back last year, it was either since 2012 or 13 that he had played at least 90% every year, and he's the only guy in the NFL that has done that among defensive linemen.
Josh, you worked the locker room yesterday, and I noticed the players I talked with, it almost sounded like there was a common theme, and that was the old "don't eat the cheese," don't eat the rat poison, as Nick Saban would say. Obviously, this is coming straight from the top from Sean Payton, and Drew Brees was asked about it, and his response I thought was interesting. He doesn't feel like this team has the mindset that they've accomplished anything yet. 3 straight 7-9 seasons have kind of led to that, I think. But this would be an easy week. I mean, the Bears are not a sexy team. They're playing at the Superdome. The Saints have won 4 in a row. You could see them having potentially a letdown in a game like this. But, I didn't get the sense in the locker room that would happen, just because I think it's become such a point of emphasis for Sean Payton and his staff.
Yeah, I think that probably is coming from Payton a lot, but it's also coming from, the veteran leadership in the locker room. Guys like Brees, he's probably seen enough times, whether it was one game or a stretch of games, that guys, got a little overconfident. But I thought Kenny Vaccaro last week had a really good take on this. He knew the gas mask thing. Sterling Moore gave him like a Halloween gas mask, and in case people try to gas you up. But I mean, he said, something I thought was really important, where he was. So I think, between the veterans who have mostly experienced nothing but problems, I mean, I think there's only a handful of guys that, were still here back when they had a winning team back in 13 or even beyond that. So they're all anxious to, actually finally accomplish something. And then the young guys, I mean, they don't know any better. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them, want to start, feeling good about themselves, but, because they have those veterans that, are probably warning them against that. I think, it's a good balance in that locker room of guys just not, looking ahead or overlooking any opponent. And we saw last Sunday against the Packers. I mean, you can't afford to, say, oh, they have Brett Hundley so they can beat them, because then all of a sudden Aaron Jones runs up the middle and, dominates on the first drive. And, or you have a muff punt return by Ted Ginn. I mean, these are all things that, if you start making these mistakes, they start compounding, and any team in the NFL is good enough to beat anyone on any given Sunday, as they always say. So I think, the Saints know that, and they're aware that they can't start getting big heads or eat the cheese or the rat poison or whatever cliche we want to say.
One more question, we'll let you run. Josh, you mentioned the run defense. How concerned should Saints fans be given the performance that you saw in Green Bay and given how much we anticipate the Bears running the football this Sunday?
I think a little concerned. I wouldn't go crazy or panic, as you like to do, Larry.
I love panic, though.
I just do think that, this is a good running team with the Bears, and it's something that, could give the Saints problems just based on what happened last week. But, you also have to look at the fact that, the Saints held, Aaron Jones down pretty well after that first drive. He had 70 yards on the first drive, and I think finished with like 136. So, obviously they made some adjustments to limit him. But the one thing I think that should be a concern is Mitchell Trubisky's athleticism and his mobility, because I think, Brett Hundley obviously had some success running against the Saints last week, and the Bears, I imagine, will find ways to have Trubisky, do the same. So certainly the run defense, I think, is the most important thing, because I don't really know that any of the receivers on the Bears, will be able to test the Saints very much. So as long as they, can slow down the run or limit the run with Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen, I think the defense should have another strong game on Sunday.
And the Bears just traded yesterday for Dontrell Inman from the Chargers, so they obviously need some receiver help. So Josh Katzenstein, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, Saints beat reporter. Josh, appreciate it as always, and come on, bring me some panic next time. I need panic in my life.
Keep it.
I need it. Need it.
You should make a panic room and then just go in there for fun.
I should.
Like a recovery tent that the Saints have. You can just kind of dive in.
We at least need a panic button. Don't we need that on the set? We need one.
I think Dave's got one in the studio.
There it is, the siren. Isn't that for tornadoes? Anyway, Josh, appreciate it as always,
Joshua.
buddy.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Josh Katzenstein. Let's take a break right here on the show, and we only have Jeff for one more segment.
I know.
He's leaving us.
Bailing out.
For hour number 2, it's going to be Clyde and Holder.
Looking forward to it.
Number 2.
Looking forward to it. Can't wait. Hey, Jeff, get out of here.
Wow, already get out.
He's gotten a little full of himself.
You got to make one pick, and then you got to go.
One more segment with one Jeffrey today. He'll be back tomorrow. No worries.
Did I get? By the way, did I get the Louisville Florida State game right?
We actually all got that. We got that game right. Yeah.
I got a lot of games wrong per normal, right?
Pretty much. Yep.
Exactly. So we'll have that around 11:30, like always. My time to be embarrassed. So come on back. One more segment with Jeffrey on a Thursday, but you'll have us till noon. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeart Radio app. We're Dunc and Holder. Shoot. I didn't realize Akeem Hicks, 83.2% of the snaps.
LSU coming back from the dead.
4-6.
And you got to give it.
There's a good
Ed
story
Ogeron.
on.
I wasn't too keen on the hire.
The Chicago
And I'm not gonna
Sun-Times
sit here and
about
say,
him.
Man, I'm sold on him now. But I
I'm writing
love
my
him
first and
keeping
10
it
lead is on
together.
Akeem Hicks.
Sports 1280
Yeah.
New Orleans.
Patrick Finley.
What if I told you that you could play any song, album, or playlist on the iHeartRadio app for free? It's not a trick. It's our Halloween treat. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's the iHeartRadio All Access Free Preview Weekend. Our library of millions of songs is yours for free all weekend. Even download songs to listen offline. Experience all the iHeartRadio app can do this Friday through Sunday. The iHeartRadio All Access Free Preview Weekend.
iHeartRadio.
Apple is prepping for the iPhone X invasion. TechJohn overhauling the homepage on its website to basically feature nothing but the iPhone X. A large banner reminds visitors that the 10 goes up for pre-order on Friday at midnight Pacific time. There's also a slew of boxes that highlight different features, including design, Face ID, and the True Depth camera. One other note about Apple, Bloomberg says the company will focus on comedies and emotional dramas with its forthcoming new video programming. The PG focus due to the fact that everyone with an Apple device
Minute and a half.
will be able to view the shows. Twitter really wants you to know what's political and what's not. The social network will now place a purple dot on political ads that refer to a specific candidate. The company also launching a
Are you familiar with what's
transparency
going
center
on with,
that will include a list of the ads that are on Twitter, the
Jim
amount of money each
McElwain?
advertiser has spent.
Oh,
and
you
the
mean about the death
information about the
threats and
organization or individual
yeah,
that's funding the ads.
obviously he talked
Tech
about it
report,
on
Larry
his
Olson,
Monday,
NBC
Tuesday.
I'm gonna bring it up with you.
Yeah.
I'm not totally
I
familiar
met
with
someone.
Well,
you hear it a
what's
lot from people
what's
on
unfortunate
Match,
about it is that
because more
it's
people
probably
have met their
accurate, but a
someone
lot
on
of people are
Match than
questioning
any
whether
other
or not
dating app.
why are you
Everyone
bringing
wants
this
to
up
find
now?
that
It's because you're
meaningful
3-3.
Match
It's
is
because
not only number one in first,
so
but
it's
second
an
dates,
unfortunate
too.
situation. But
Now,
yeah,
here's a free
I've seen a
offer
little
for
bit.
our
So we can do
listeners.
that.
Go
Yeah.
to Match.com/party
We'll surround it
for
around.
7 days free.
Because I'm gonna bring that up
That's
with.
7 days completely free to
We
search,
never really
view
talked
photos,
about Joe
and
Oliva at the
connect.
touchdown.
This free offer
That's
is
true.
found at
Yesterday. Yeah, 2 days ago.
We'll talk about that.
Match.com/party. That's Match.com/party. Match.com/party.
War, poverty, and disaster have left millions of children around the world.
You couldn't
orphaned,
make it an hour.
abandoned,
Knocked it
alone.
out.
When their parents can't be there, SOS Children's Heritage Tuesday in 100
Gotta get it in.
including the U.S. To make a difference in a
Part of my
child's
morning
life,
routine.
go to
Love it.
sosusa.org.
Put $1,000 in your hand.
Win $1,000 every hour. Up to 16 times a day. Weekdays. Starting at 5 a.m. When you hear the keyword, text it to 200-200. Listen all day for a chance to put $1,000 in your hand on Sports 1280, New Orleans. This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I love this response I just got on Twitter from Who Dat Chris. You want panic? Try sitting with us at the Dome 2 weeks ago. I bet you there was some panic in that Detroit game. Panic that they were going to come back and lose. And, yeah.
It was similar to, in a way, that first Saints playoff win against the Rams when the momentum turned and all of a sudden the Rams were scoring every time they got the ball. And then, of course, Hakeem dropped the punt.
Yep.
And it was kind of a similar situation. Remember the guy fumbled the ball back for the Lions, back to like the 1 yard line or so, and picked it up and got tackled, and there was the Cam Jordan interception. Similar kind of turn of events.
We need to do where is Brian Milne?
I know where he's at.
What's he doing? Does he still have a mustache?
We should get him on the show. Matter of fact, we'll endeavor to do that. He is a police officer in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Arrested by him. Could we set that up?
Where did that go?
I don't know if you can be saying that on radio, Larry. I don't know if you can just willy-nilly just say, "Oh, I'm sure she's been arrested."
I just said maybe. Maybe she has.
That's like throwing the allegedly out there.
Yeah,
it covers everything.
Maybe.
Allegedly,
I mean,
child molester.
I did not take it there.
I'm just saying, you throw that word in, and it's...
She could have been arrested for jaywalking. You don't know.
Jaywalking is very big. I do know that for a fact. It is very big there.
We need to get Brian Milne on the show. He's one of the great unsung heroes. I guess he was sung. He wasn't unsung.
The fact that I still remember his name, I think he is sung.
The Saints have had a bunch of those kind of players that have had their moments. I think of Curtis DeLoach, who's the one that pounced on Steve Gleason's block punt for the touchdown.
DeLoach, man.
The Dunc.
You know, we did a thing not too long ago here at NOLA.com. You could make a case of the 10 greatest plays in New Orleans Saints history that over half of them were special teams plays, right?
Yeah.
John Gilliam's kickoff return, ambush,
Chris Reese. Speaking of people who you wouldn't remember for anything else but the one singular play.
Yeah.
Tom Dempsey's field goal, right? Obviously Steve Gleason's blocked punt. I think the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that for sure wasn't one was the River City Relay, which was right after a kickoff return. So.
I love telling people that story because they have no idea about that game. And, like, I remember from, I think it was either your book or it was from something else where I read, it was like an oral history of the entire play about what everybody was thinking. And it's like, only the Saints to have a play that would be so memorable only to come down to the last play and then just like, what? No! He missed it!
I can tell you that one of my favorite stories was about that game, covering that game. It was at Alltel Stadium in Jacksonville, and that's one of the few, and Larry knows this, each stadium has different rules regarding press field level access. In Alltel, you could go down with 4 minutes left and get on the field. You could do that for a long time in Tampa. I don't know if we can still do it or not, but you could go on the field, reporters that is, and get field access. So I went down and was standing on the sidelines when all this went down, and I remember distinctly after the Saints got the kickoff there at the end, John Carney was down there kicking, practicing his kicks into that kicking net on the sidelines behind the Saints bench. And I remember thinking, what are you doing? I mean, they're not going to kick a field goal. They're down by too many points. What is this idiot doing? Because he was kicking it right near me, and it was like ricocheting right
stop.
near. And I was like, what is he doing? Why is he even doing this? And sure enough, they complete this miracle series of laterals and score, and John went out and missed the extra point.
I was waiting for you to say he was practicing and he just missed the net.
No.
That was like the precursor to
No,
the
in
doom.
fact, that even helps the lore of the story even more, because you figure, like, he's there, he's nailing all these
He was
kicks
gearing
right into
up.
the net, and then you get to the main thing, and it's just...
But I was standing right there as everybody went by me. I was right where, if you watch the replay of the play, Deuce McAllister made his lateral. That's right where I was standing. It was right in front of me where he lateraled. And then I distinctly remember the incredulity on the Saints sidelines that it completed for a touchdown. And then the other thing I remember from that was when Carney missed the extra point, Walter Rasby was a backup tight end. He was one of the end blockers. And he turned around because he had been blocking, and he was like, "What?" He was just incredulous. He screamed out on the field.
I guarantee you he will not be remembered, and that would be the last time we ever mention him on radio ever in life. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. We'll talk with Brett Martell of the AP coming up next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Say goodbye to Depp today. We're Duncan Holder.
Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Governor Billy Mungo.
Right on the wire.
I would never. I've never even heard of that guy.
Walter Rasby? Yeah, because he was like the guy on the end, and it was like blocking and
paddle
the kid
and
goes
hike
up
our
and he's
state
like,
parks last year.
he like
you to do so.
ran off the
Every
field
day.
and he took his helmet off.
From the world
Oh, it was
class
brutal.
at Toledo to paddling at Fountain to experience
It's wonderful.
World
Classic
Classic
Saints.
So fill up your car and staycation right here in our home, Louisiana.
Classic Saints, breaking my heart.
Rear view mirror. Welcome to Thursday. Whether you're
Yeah, I can do that.
harvesting
Yeah,
them,
I can
making
totally do
pies, or
that. I was going to see,
getting
like, if we had enough time.
You
But I
might
mean,
be
that
interested
was a better
in
story than
knowing
anything
today is
else.
National
Like,
Pumpkin
there's
Day.
one game. There's
Fun
one
fact
game
about
that's
those
tonight.
pumpkins,
That's
the
Stanford,
U.S.
Oregon
produces
State.
1.5 billion pounds of pumpkin
That's,
every year,
tonight,
with the
so
great state of Illinois leading the way in terms of pumpkin production. Meanwhile, it's also National Day of the Deployed. Since 2006, today has been set aside to honor the military men and women who have been deployed or are currently deployed in defense of America.
Where is it?
NBC News Radio.
I mean, I don't see why you can't park on Sugar Bowl Drive. Hey, Jim, what's up? Parking like on Sugar Bowl Drive and then walking in through the glass entrance on. Yeah. It's on the side that's also facing Portland.
Fox Sports trending now.
Underneath
the world of
the
sports
ramp.
still reeling from an exceptional Game 2 of the World Series. Houston a 7-6 win in 11 innings. Here's Astros manager A.J. Hinch.
I mean, that's an incredible game on so many levels, so many ranges of emotion. If you like October baseball,
the guys still
if you
do
like
on the
any kind
field,
of
yeah.
baseball.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's one of the most incredible
Yeah, they
games
still-
that you'll ever be a part of.
Game 3 of the World Series will be Friday night in
really?
Houston. The Yankees and manager Joe Girardi have gone their separate ways. After 10 years together,
Yeah, we'll
Girardi's
see tomorrow. I'm gonna
contract
email these to you
expired
right now.
After 4 seasons. And New York says they
unless you don't ever
want to
plan on
go
doing video,
someone
but-
else. Tonight, week 8 of the
Because, I
NFL
mean,
season kicks
the
off with
guys who are
Miami
still,
playing at
like-
Baltimore. Matt Moore will get the start
our
for the
guys,
Dolphins
sports guys,
as
Josh,
Jay Cutler
Amos,
sits out with cracked ribs. Reports
like those guys
from
use it
South
to
Florida
like put their
suggest Cutler
videos
could
on our
return
YouTube page
next week
and things like that.
against the
So, I mean,
Oakland
they're
Raiders.
the only ones
I'm
that-
Ralph Irvin.
Yeah, you could just re-download
Still a threat, and its effect on
Yeah.
an unborn child can be devastating.
All right, bud, I'm gonna say this to you right now.
Use insect repellent and condoms and dump standing water. Let's keep stopping Zika. Visit cdc.gov/prevent Zika. This message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Attention all women who have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. In February 2016, Johnson & Johnson baby powder was ordered to pay $72 million by a jury to women who died of ovarian cancer after 35 years of using the talcum baby powder product. Multiple studies show women who
Why
have
is it that
long-term
I
use of baby powder
summon
products
that
with
back
talcum for
to
feminine hygiene
Fresh
can
Prince of
increase the
Bel-Air
risk
when
of contracting
Carlton-
ovarian
Right.
cancer.
That's
If your
seriously
family
where I
member has
summon
been
that back
diagnosed with ovarian cancer and used Johnson & Johnson or Shower to Shower baby
How
powder
much can we
prior to the
torpedo this
diagnosis,
show?
call
Ooh,
Talcum Baby
don't-
Powder
let's not ask that
Helpline
question
today.
just yet. Let's not ask
800
that question, 'cause, I mean,
457 3280.
I think we should allow it to happen and then be like, hey, man, well, we remember when this show went off the rails.
The consultation is free,
Thanks.
and you'll pay nothing unless there is a recovery in your favor. If you or a loved one used talcum baby powder-based products before being diagnosed with or died from ovarian cancer, call Talcum Baby Powder Helpline today. 800-457-3280. 800-457-3280. 800-457-3280.
My son Aiden has asthma. Secondhand smoke has triggered his asthma so badly, he ended up in the emergency room and spent multiple nights in intensive care. Now he's on a whole bunch of medications. My tip to you is, Don't be shy about telling people not to smoke around your kids.
Yeah, it's running fine.
Half
so
of
far.
U.S. kids are exposed to secondhand smoke. If you or someone you know wants help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Naturally.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
A potential
No,
hit to
I mean,
American
I-
Airlines
it's hard to
bottom
say,
line.
but,
The
like, between, like, the
NAACP
idea that
is advising
you got too
African
much on your
Americans
phone,
not to
phone's
fly
older,
American. It's
you're-
national. American passengers
things
to
like that that kind
discriminatory and disrespectful
all
behavior.
Cites 4 examples in particular, cases in which it says African Americans have been kicked off planes and have been shown great disrespect by flight crews. For its part, American Airlines says it is a company that includes a diverse team of employees of all ethnicities, of all races and all religions. It says it does not tolerate any sort of racism.
NBC's Tom Costello reporting Sears is going old school in hopes of reviving old school profits. It's bringing back the Sears catalog, both print and digital. It's a modified version with a new name, the Wish Book. Members of the
so
Sears
the Red
loyalty
Sox?
program will get the
No,
hard
they
copy,
just hired a
otherwise it'll be
manager. I was
online
gonna say.
in app
Did
form.
they just
But
hire
the world's
Cora?
largest online
Yeah, but
retailer
it's-
is trying
that's
to get
crazy
even
that,
closer to its customers.
the Red
Sharon
Sox
Reed
and
reports.
Yankees changed their managers in the same offseason.
Service that lets customers
The Mets
receive
too.
packages
Well, the Mets had to.
inside
Yeah,
their
they
homes,
had to.
even if they're not at home. It's called Amazon Key. CNET
Wild.
reports Amazon Key could be the biggest push by any company to boost in-home delivery. It's launching next month
They
in
need to hire
37
Joe
metropolitan
Girardi
areas.
in Washington.
Amazon
Yes,
says
they do.
Amazon
Like,
Key works
immediately.
with voice assistant
Yeah.
Alexa, along with the company's new Cloud Cam security camera, a smart door lock, and a new key app. Amazon Key will only be available to Prime members. Sharon Reed, NBC News Radio.
And the U.S. Postal Service is predicting a 10%
All right, 1 minute.
this holiday season compared to last.
We got Brett.
About 850 million packages and more than 15 billion items of all kinds, junk mail and bills included.
Dave, we got Brett.
I'll just say yeah.
To areas that already get it.
I'll just say yeah.
That's a good answer.
But the Postal Service is still losing money. It lost more than $2
Hell,
billion
it's crazy,
in
though.
the
Dontrell
third quarter,
Inman.
a $500 million more than the year before.
They just traded him,
Consumer
and
business
he's
news, Joe
the
McConnell,
Bears' best
NBC
receiver. He hadn't
News
even played.
Radio.
He hasn't played it down yet.
Yeah, he's.
Hi, this is Jennifer Coolidge.
He
The
actually
American
looked-
Heart Association says the
in those
disco song
practices out in
"Stayin'
LA, he
Alive"
actually looked
is the
pretty
near
good.
perfect beat for hands-only
Like, I
CPR.
remember him.
All right, we got Brett.
Cool.
Teen or adult collapsed from
Thank you,
cardiac
sir.
arrest. You only
I totally remembered. I promise.
in the center of the chest to the beat of the song "Stayin' Alive."
Just like
Disco
I
is back
totally
and
remembered to
saving
send you
lives.
sound this morning.
To learn more, go to Heart.
Exactly.
Hands-only CPR.
I didn't forget. I didn't do it on
Nationally
purpose.
supported by the WellPoint Foundation.
For once.
$1,000 in your hand? Sounds good, doesn't it? The next keyword is minutes away on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Here we go.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2. On a Thursday, October 26th, Jeffrey has flown the coop. Has a speaking engagement with some people, I guess, more important than you and me, Clyde.
Clearly.
And you and me, Dave. And I guess he just does whatever he wants. So now,
Jeff does what he wants.
if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm just sitting next to an empty chair. It's a lonely world here on Dunc and Holder.
I'm going to put out to the YouTubers, if you want me to move, put it in the comments on the YouTube page if you want me
Should
to
we
move.
do a Dunc and Holder poll? Should Clyde move?
Should I move it to Jeff's seat?
Should Clyde move? Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So,
I like it.
Absolutely. But join us right here. And you can hear the music. And Brett, I did this just for you, my friend. Brett Martell, the Associated Press, also known for his previous wrestling days as Rick the Model Martell. Brett, how are you, my friend?
Don't confuse the public now.
Why? You were a New England guy. Rick the Model Martell's finishing move was the Boston Crab. That fits with you perfectly. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could almost be related, I guess. There's a lot of Martells in that part of the world, but he may have had some more physical prowess than I have.
Physical.
That's fair.
He is a bit of a specimen, but Brett, of course, covers all things Louisiana sports for the Associated Press. So we're going to jump around a bunch of topics. Saints, Pelicans, LSU. We'll even Tulane will run the gamut. But Brett, let's start first with the Saints. We had our own Josh Katzenstein on in 2 segments ago, and look, I'm trying not to be radio panic guy, but I don't see Michael Thomas practicing, and Sean Payton wasn't exactly open to revealing anything this morning. If Michael Thomas does not play on Sunday, how much do you think this affects the Saints' offense?
Well, I think, it's funny. Over the course of a season, the Saints are generally good at adjusting the game plan where productivity doesn't drop off that much. But the Bears seem to be a very good physical defense, and sometimes that requires very good physical receivers to catch difficult balls. And that's probably Thomas's greatest strength, is how aggressive he is with physical, defenders who try to be physical on him. His ability to create separation with those guys and his strong hands and reaching out in front of them and grabbing the ball. So without those abilities, there could be some critical third down plays where drives stall, where they might have otherwise, continued, and then you end up with residual effects, throughout the game that, relates to time of possession and how tired your own defense gets and all kinds of things. So, it could be influential.
Brett Martelli, Associated Press, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Brett, we've covered this team for over a decade, you, me, and a few select gentlemen. What is your overall scope on this team? Because, look, it's been a long time since you and me have covered a winning Saints team. What's kind of your overall perspective on how the Saints team has gotten back to this point, and do you feel like they can sustain going forward?
Well, it looks like now after 4 games that they have figured a lot of things out, and in kind of a stunning way, really, when you consider that, how close the NFL games tend to be these days and how many close games the Saints have had over the past 3 years. They lost the first 2 games by double digits, only to win the next 4 games comfortably. And, they only won by 9 this last week, but they're still kneeling on the ball for the last 2 minutes despite 2 turnovers early in the game and being behind much of the game. So that's kind of if a 9-point win can be dominant, that's kind of what it looks like. So I haven't really seen them be able to so comfortably overcome early mistakes like that, probably since 2011. I know the 2013 season was pretty good, but and I'm not comparing this team in any way to 2011. I'm just saying that these last 4 games I think is the best stretch I've seen from them maybe since 2011 in terms of, obviously I think they started 5-0 in 2013, but they not all those games were quite, not all those victories are quite as dominant as some of these have been.
Brett, you look at the Chicago Bears taking on the Saints, and it's a team where, boy, you certainly think that the Saints should win this game. What maybe pitfalls do you see possibly from Chicago that they're going to present the Saints some problems in the Dome on Sunday?
Well, they have a very good running game. And, the Saints just gave up 180 yards on the ground. So even though the defense is playing very well.
You're trying to make me panic, Brett. Totally. You're trying to make me panic.
Don't worry, everybody does it.
Well, they are still susceptible to busts here and there in the running game. But, they are playing better overall, so it doesn't necessarily mean they'll have one. Lately their ball security was great the first few games of the season, but they have turned it over a couple of times in each of the last 2 games. And the way Chicago's been winning is with turnovers and defense. And so, that's, if New Orleans plays a clean game on both sides of the ball, it's going to be really hard for them to lose. And I think that's why they're favored by more than a touchdown, I believe, right?
Right.
Or a touchdown, a 2-point.
Well, it depends on what site. Depends on what site you look at. But yeah, it's at least a touchdown. Yes.
Yeah, if they're playing a clean game and he busts on the run defense and they're not turning the ball over on offense, it seems like a hard game to lose. But they have to do all that, and they don't always do that. So, that's why we get results that we don't expect sometimes.
Let's switch gears here, Brett. The Pelicans, they are going up against the Sacramento Kings tonight, 1-3, and we've seen this plenty enough. I would just anticipate he's not going to play. Just through 4 games, just your perspective on the Pelicans so far.
Well, if you look at an 82-game season versus 16-game season, I think it'd be very easy to look at these first 2 games and say, this looks like more of the same, just like the first 2 Saints games looked like more of the same. So I think it does require a little bit of patience, but it does look like more of the same. And, with AD, I mean, he's questionable on day-to-day, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen over the last 5 years that, a guy gets hurt and it appears to be minor and he's out a couple games and he tries to come back and then has a setback, and before you know it, he has surgery. So when the Pelicans say that Anthony Davis is questionable on day-to-day, I take that as meaning that there is some hope that he will come back in a short amount of time. But
depression about the Pelicans just now. The years of depression, you've just kept it going. I'm not even panicking because it's like, what's the point to panic with them at this point, honestly?
Yeah, well, I do think that, if they have luck with AD coming back soon, and how bad the chemistry is because of the abbreviated preseason, which they've done obviously to try to reduce the burden of the regular season schedule and get away from a lot of those back-to-backs. It's possible that as Rondo comes back and as they get healthy, if they get healthy, there's a huge if, and you can't worry that wouldn't put them back in playoff contention and make us forget about all this. Just like for the time being, it's easier to overlook the first 2 Saints games, which were not competitive on their part.
Brett, LSU, of course, it's a far different story than what we would be talking about, say, a month ago. Their bye week, going to be going to play Alabama, of course, critical game. What have you seen in this LSU team that would give you optimism that they can go up to Tuscaloosa despite being, what, Clyde? What's the spread right now? Close to 3 touchdowns? Something crazy?
It'll probably come down, though, between this week and next week, though.
Right.
So,
because
it's pretty big.
Because it's big. What gives you optimism that they can go up to Tuscaloosa and pull off basically the near impossible and beat Alabama?
I think the biggest thing really is the fact that they're really not expected to win. Like, it's not even expected to be close. For the first time in a long time, all those other years, there was kind of this expectation that they've been playing well. They've got a lot of NFL guys on both teams, and everyone thought Alabama's better and Alabama's favored, but maybe not that much better. I mean, you looked at the end of the third quarter last year, what was it, 0-0 still? And people thought it would be competitive. And here, even though they've won 3 in a row because they have so many young guys and they had some horrible setbacks early in the year, it's really almost like LSU comes in, under the radar, but at the same time very inspired. And I keep thinking about, when you maybe it would take a miracle, but I keep thinking about the U.S. Olympic hockey team in 1980 against the Russians.
I mean, it's that bad? You think it's that bad? My gosh!
Well,
wow.
But I'm saying, but I'm actually not looking at it as that bad. I'm actually looking at it as it is realistic to consider that when you have a bunch of talented young players like LSU has, and they're very unrefined, and that's the problem. They've been playing a lot of youth, and Alabama has a much more refined team. They can still kind of, in the right conditions, put it together and be brilliant for 60 minutes. And even if they would lose, say 4 out of 5 matchups against those guys, this could be the one that they win. Because the young guys have played a lot better, and they are figuring things out, and they are getting healthier, particularly in the offensive line, and they do have an extra week to get healthier because they're off this week. And so there's, I'm curious to see. It doesn't mean I think. It doesn't mean I would expect LSU to win, but I just, they're a dangerous team to rule out right now against anybody.
Do you believe in miracles? I'm not sure if I do, but Brett might. Brett Martell from the Associated Press joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Hey, Brett, appreciate the time as always, my friend. And I was talking with Clyde, and Brett's a big Red Sox fan. When's the last time you've seen the Red Sox and the Yankees make a managerial change? If you're just jumping on the internet or listening to the radio, that the Yankees and Joe Girardi have parted ways. So crazy offseason in baseball, my friend.
Yeah, well, apparently making the playoffs wasn't good enough for either of the managers.
Nope.
Exactly.
Nope.
Guess
Making
not.
the playoffs, you can get out.
Yeah, exactly. ALCS, no. Well, why don't you go check on our friend Todd Grappanini, and let's see how he is after last night's game 2. Total meltdown by Kenley Jansen. Total meltdown. So we'll check on him, and I'm sure we'll get an update. But, hey, Brett, appreciate the time as always, my friend. We'll catch up soon.
All right, thanks for the music, too.
I sent it to our producer by your request. You and Herbie Tiopi are high-maintenance guests. You want your theme music. So, hey, Brett, appreciate it.
You got to get some steam in the don't you need some steam in the studio, too?
Some steam.
I think we can get a fog machine in here real easy.
I think we could. Absolutely. You need some more arrogance cologne from your man, Rick the Model Martell. So that's Brett Martell of the Associated Press. Follow all of his coverage all over the world. He's global. We're just local.
Locals.
He's global. So, but yeah, thanks, Brett. Appreciate the time as always. When we come back, we will jump into some college football chatter. We haven't really talked too much about Joe Oliva's comments from Rockin' Bowl a couple days ago, and Clyde is college football machine. We want to talk about that. We want to talk about Jim McElwain death threats. I had to be educated on the story from Clyde. Of course, he educates me on plenty of things. And then around 11:35, we will do our college picks, and we will probably just ridicule Jeff most of the time.
Absolutely, because he's not here and he can't say anything
Exactly.
to the otherwise.
And it's a good thing because my picks always stink.
They
so
do, badly.
we could just ridicule the empty chair here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app with Dunc and Holder.
Your shot
Little
at
damn Yankees.
$1,000.
Yeah, I caught it.
That wasn't
Money
damn Yankees.
to 200.
Oh, it wasn't?
That was damn Yankees.
That's extreme.
Extreme.
Standard data and
Extremes.
What's
money
damn
to
Yankees?
200.
Yeah, can you
A
take me
potential hit
high enough?
bottom line.
Yes,
The NAACP is
she's coming of
advising
age.
African Americans.
Claude, are you really moving?
Its National Travel
What?
Advisory
Help
says
you, dude.
Americans
You want me to be a
routinely subject
disembodied voice.
African American passengers to discriminatory.
Hey, here's
Disembodied voice. No, that sounds even better.
make you straight in
The
the neck,
ghost
bro.
of Clyde.
African Americans have been
Oh, Clyde is taking over.
shown
Taking
great
over.
disrespect
Hey,
by
Jeff.
flight
Sorry.
crews. For its part, American Airlines says it is a company that includes a diverse team of employees.
Look, this
of
is
all
Clyde,
races,
YouTube.
Of all races and all
Hi, everyone.
religions. It says it does not tolerate any
Disembodied
sort of
voice.
racism.
NBC's Tom.
I like the
reporting
disembodied voice on
Sears
PTI.
is
He's
going
a cool
old
dude.
school in
Exactly.
hopes of reviving old
Mail
school
time.
profits. It's bringing back the Sears catalog, both print and digital. It's a modified version with a new name, the Wish Book. Members of the Sears loyalty program will
Wish
get
Book.
the hard copy. Otherwise, it'll be online and in app form. The world's largest online retail.
All right, 2 minutes.
Closer to its customers, Sharon Reed reports.
Amazon is rolling out a new shopping service that lets customers receive packages inside their homes, even if they're not at home. It's called Amazon
a much
Key.
bigger computer than I
CNET
do.
reports
What's up
Amazon
with that?
Key could be the
'cause
biggest
mine-
push by any
I have a
company
bigger screen
to
probably. You have
boost
the
in-home
13, I have
delivery.
the 15.
It's launching next month in 37
kinda need it.
metropolitan areas.
Kinda.
Amazon says Amazon Key works with voice assistant Alexa, along with the company's new cloud cam security camera, a smart door
Put
lock,
Jeff's chair
and a
even
new key
really
app.
low,
Amazon Key
so when he
will
come-
only be
when he comes
available
back, he
to
can be
Prime
like,
members. Sharon Reed,
Who moved my chair?
NBC News
Yeah.
Radio.
Who moved my chair?
And the U.S. Postal Service is
crotchety old
predicting
man,
a
Jeff.
10% surge in mail volume this holiday season compared to
He
last.
loves that.
About
He loves that
850 million
shtick.
packages and more than 50
I mean, he plays it well,
billion
though.
items of all
He's playing
kinds,
really
junk
well.
mail and bills included.
Let's talk about
USPS
traffic.
is also adding Sunday delivery to areas that don't already get it starting November 26th. But the Postal Service is still losing money. It lost more than $2 billion in the third quarter, a $500 million more than the year before. Consumer and business news, Joe McConnell, NBC News Radio.
Clay Travis.
I'm a First Amendment absolutist.
Mornings 5 to 8.
I open up phone lines and let people just tee off on me and say I'm racist. Why do I do that? Because one, I know I'm not racist. And two, I think that allowing more voices to talk is always better than less.
Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Habitat for Humanity builds houses and so much more. A Habitat build site is where hanging a door opens a world of opportunity, where turning a screw turns the page, and where a simple key can unlock a brighter future.
All right, 10 seconds.
Habitat for Humanity builds houses and so much more. What will you build? Visit habitat.org to learn more.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Why is there someone in this chair? What? You moved?
Because it was vacated by the last person.
You didn't even make a poll to vote for a move.
I put it on the YouTube channel. Everybody was like, Clyde move, so I'm just giving the people what they want.
You buttered them up and said,
I didn't
move.
Yeah, I'm going to pay each and every one of them, all 21 people who are watching, I'm going to pay them, clearly.
You're not supposed to say how few people we have on YouTube. You're
Why
supposed
not?
to say
man,
thousands.
Hey, man, shout out to our YouTube users. Shout out to you
Here he
guys.
goes.
You guys are here every single day, even when the stream is sometimes a little
That's a good way to describe it. Well, we're cursing it. But
yes, clearly cursing it because I'm not here or something else is going wrong. But
right,
yeah, so I'm just giving the people what they want, man. Just like Jalen Rose says, man.
They want more Clyde. Well, Joe Oliva wants more patience, and I think Coach O has at least bought some time for patience given
Absolutely.
the loss to Troy and given what they've done since then. And Brett Martell of the Associated Press did not exactly paint a picture of LSU fans should have a bastion of confidence going into this Alabama game.
Nor should he.
But you look at some of the comments that Joe Oliva had. He spoke to the at the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation Quarterback Club luncheon at Rockin' Bowl, which we all love Rockin' Bowl, on Tuesday, and basically just saying, quote, we went through a couple of rough games. To Coach O's credit, he's righted the ship. And look, I've heard people have some commentary on if he's righted the ship or whatnot, and I don't know if he's totally righted the ship. But here's the thing. I think that, and this is going to sound weird, we need to know how big is the ship? What is the ship? Is the ship SEC championship expectations? Is it national championship expectations? I think we need to, as people who follow LSU, people who cover LSU, what should the expectations be? Because I'm sure some LSU fans think it's national championship year or bust. Doesn't matter what the roster is. Doesn't matter who's on the coaching staff. We need to understand what it is. And I think, Clyde, when we walked into this season, we didn't think that LSU was national championship caliber. We thought they were second or third in the SEC West caliber.
That could still be a possibility, though, depending on what happens.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. If you lose games in a different order, there wouldn't be this panic.
Right. Of course not. But I think the thing, and, we talked about this a lot, specifically after that Troy game, where literally at that point it is, let's look at the entire situation, let's look at the entire roster, the coaching staff, everything that's happened. And since that point in time, we have had nothing to question. So I find it interesting, though, that yesterday, if you go and look at our story, there's an embedded tweet there from our own Christopher Dade that says, it's a quote from Joe Oliva. He says, I don't have to spend any time with Coach O watching video this week, ... That's a joke.
Yeah. I don't think that's a joke. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's a bad joke, and I can imagine him trying to give that off as if he's like Chris Rock, and he's not.
He shouldn't be joking.
You're right, but that shows. But if anything, that shows the entire farce of the entire thing of whether or not he's watching video with the team, whether or not he's having a closed door meeting with the coaches. The coaches know what they should be doing. I don't think the coaches need any help from basically the person, the head administrator, who should be looking over the entirety of the athletic department, worrying about what's going on with whether or not Danny Etling is a solid enough quarterback, which he is, by the way, according to numbers. the idea, and especially we'll get to this when we talk about Florida, at the end of the day, the SEC is different. And it's just like our Ron Higgins wrote yesterday, a couple days ago, if you want to blame the SEC for being mediocre, then blame Nick Saban. Nick Saban is the reason that the SEC is mediocre in what it is. Because at this point, everybody's playing for second place. Georgia literally is playing to get to the SEC East, to be the SEC East title holder, just so that they can get to the SEC championship game, make it a game for about a quarter, lose, and go to the Sugar Bowl. That's a good season. That's a really good season for them, especially what they've come off of. So now I think the expectations as a whole for the SEC should be much different. And for LSU, I think regardless of what happens next week against Alabama, they have a very good shot to run the table the rest of the month, finish 9 wins, get to a very decent bowl game, probably in Florida. It won't be the Citrus Bowl, guys. These bowls don't take teams back-to-back years unless they have to. It doesn't happen that much, so I'm thinking maybe Outback Bowl, maybe Jacksonville Tax Slayer, one of those big bowls. Or if things fall the right way, who knows if they might be the highest-ranked CFP team left that might be able to go to the Sugar Bowl. These things can happen. But regardless of what happens next week, they still have a shot to make a much decent year than what we thought about 3 weeks ago.
But the record would have been the same. We would have assumed that they would have been 9-3, but the losses are just bizarre losses. Now, look, I don't think that you say regardless of what happens next week. I think if LSU goes up and gets throttled, they'd be susceptible to losing again. I think
to who? Arkansas? A&M?
We've seen them lose to Troy. We've seen them get throttled by Mississippi State. I know they are different. They're a different team now than they were then. There's no doubt about it because, look, Darius Geis is getting healthier. He's not 100%, admittedly,
right.
Getting healthier. Arden Key dropped the LBs, walked away from the buffet.
It's really good.
Over at Mr. Gaddy's. Is Mr. Gaddy still around?
Yeah, Mr. Gaddy's is still around there on just off of Perkins. Yeah.
Right, okay. So no more Mr. Gaddy's for Arden Key. But still, I still think that they would be susceptible. If they get pummeled, like the spread we see is like 20-plus points right now.
25, 26.
If they get pummeled, I could see them just kind of taking a dip again.
But here's what I would ask you. So let's talk about Alabama, and we can talk about the number of NFL players that play in this game every year. I mean, you can look back. Last year was 25, 30 guys, I think, something close to that. So let's go past that. I would ask you this question. After this Alabama game, if I told you I'm going to put my talent, LSU, up against Arkansas's talent, who are you going to take in that game?
Well, LSU is more talented.
Okay, next week, on the road at Tennessee. You've seen what Tennessee's done. I've got my talent, LSU. You got Tennessee. So who are you going with?
Tennessee is a steaming pile of mess.
Right. So I think when you look at it in the microcosm of the totality of the season, while also at the same time looking at game by game, every game is going to be different than the next. And I can totally understand your point of if they go out and get throttled, it's back to, okay, we've got knocked back on our heels. We've got to figure out how to get back going forward. But if they make it close, they only lose by 10 and make a game out of it, you're still exactly where you're supposed to be because you're not expected to win that game anyway, which is totally fine. Come out and shock the world, see what happens. But you're still at where you probably thought you were going to be going into this, let's say minus the Troy loss. Let's say you take that Troy loss away, but then you lose to Florida, or you take that Troy loss out and you lose to Auburn
or something like that. Yeah.
You're still probably where you thought you were going to be. It's just the fact that Troy loss is going to continue to look ugly for the entirety of the season because you think about what if you don't lose that game and you still beat Florida and you still beat Auburn. You think about what you have going into this game. I think that makes it a little bit of a different season, but it doesn't make it a bad season. It also doesn't make it a season where I don't think you can build off of going into next year. You know what you have. You know it's going to be Miles Brennan or bust. You know that you're going to have all these freshmen who are going to be literally these guys are going to be sophomores by the time they get to Thanksgiving. That's the biggest thing. If you are around athletic circles, you hear coaches talk about by this point in the season, regardless of the sport, these freshmen are now sophomores. They are year vested in. Just imagine what an entire spring and another season is going to do for them to get to the point where we're talking about you're putting Alabama on notice, you're putting Auburn on notice, you're putting the East on notice, and you're right back into that point of making a big run going forward.
Clyde, I don't want to admit this, but I'm going to admit this. You have gotten on such a roll that I'm flip-flopping.
Look at that. Look at that. And see, all I had to do was move to get over here to do it.
LSU can lose by 50 to Alabama, and they could still be okay. Well, because honestly, what I thought about was how Tennessee's in worse shape
They are.
Arkansas's in worse shape.
They are.
And Texas A&M, all three of those coaches are on hot seats.
They are. It's a tough thing, man.
Right.
It is.
I'm
just saying.
We're gonna cancel this segment.
All right.
Again. I can never let you make me flip
Jeff,
flop.
never
ever
leave
again.
ever again.
You're
Clearly,
the king.
I am terrible at this. Jeff, don't ever leave again. I'm
You're
sorry.
the king. I've got to stay true, and you made me flip flop totally. So speaking of flip flop, I'm sure I'll should be smacked with a flip flop when we go to the next segment. College pick'em segment. Clyde's got the games.
I do.
And
And a lot of these bad teams that we're talking about with these coaches on the hot seat are in this week's poll.
I'm sure I'm going to be a disaster, and I'm sure you've got the picks ready to go with all the records. So when we come back, college pick'em segment, Clyde's time to shine. Always fun for Clyde, always depressing for me, and probably laughable for the listeners/viewers.
You didn't have that bad of a week. It was fine.
Really?
Yeah, you weren't that bad. Comparatively to the rest of the weeks.
I'm stunned here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Duncan Holder. Man, you got on a roll. Literally, I was thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? As you're talking and I'm hearing you, I'm like,
with Hump Day in the
no, those other teams are like in way worse
Thursday.
shape. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter.
I'm not going to lie. I blacked out there for a second while I was talking. So
I do that all the
I
time.
was like, when I was done, I was like, wow, that was coherent enough. It made so much sense.
If you went old school Will Ferrell.
Every year.
Dominating. Mr. James
Carville. Production. Meanwhile, it's also National Day of the Deployed. Since 2006, today has been set aside to honor the military men and women who have been deployed or are currently deployed in defense of America. Mark Mayfield, NBC News Radio.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, a beautiful day through the afternoon. Temperatures in the mid to upper 70s under sunny skies and low humidity. Tonight, overnight lows not as cold, upper 50s north, lower 60s. 70%. Rain ends early on Saturday, followed by a big drop in the temperatures. Saturday's high as we see mostly cloudy skies, but drier weather for the weekend only in the upper 50s. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
I'm Joe Flacco from the Baltimore Ravens, urging you to stand up against our nation's drug epidemic during DEA's National Prescription Drug Takeback Day this Saturday.
Joe Flacco
Find a collection site at
should not be the spokesperson for this because they watch him play, they probably go diving for the prescription
fall classic in the first ever
What?
Houston Astros World
What is
Series
that?
win.
What
They
is going
outlasted
on?
Dodgers 7-6
He
in
was
11 innings to win
trying
game
to,
2 of the World Series
prescription
in LA.
drug,
Springer's
opiate
two-run homer
abuse,
in the 11th
and,
the
it's
difference.
like,
Astros even the best of 7 at a game apiece.
Emotional low.
I'm sure
to
whatever
high,
drug
to
it is
low,
is very
to high
mediocre.
again.
It's fine.
But that's why we play the game. And
Or should I say it's
you know,
not an elite
that's-
drug?
That's the craziest game Mike and Us said I've ever played in, and it's only game 2.
Staggering numbers out of this one. The two teams combined for a fall classic record 8 home runs, 5 extra inning home runs. That's never happened in any game in the history of Major League Baseball. The series shifts to Houston for game 3 tomorrow. NFL Panthers quarterback Cam Newton just not feeling it with the media these days. Newton hastily walked out of his press conference Wednesday after a question regarding the Panthers' inconsistent offense. And the Steelers are benching Martavis Bryant after the disgruntled wide receiver made his feelings known through social media earlier this week. That's sports. Jake Corwin, NBC News Radio.
All right, 30 seconds.
At Kohl's, it's time to stack the savings. Don't miss Kohl's 50% off sale this Thursday through Sunday. Take 50% off hundreds of select items store-wide. Plus, take an extra 20% off. Plus, take an extra $10 off when you spend $50 or more. Plus, everyone gets Kohl's Cash. Plus, Yes to You members earn triple points. Thursday through Sunday, only at Kohl's. Select stock.
All right, here we go.
October 26th through 29th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
The uncensored talk about your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Duncan Holder back at you. Jeff Duncan has exited the building. Clyde has jumped in his seat.
I have.
Making me admit things that I never wanted to admit.
It's okay.
Total nightmare.
I know.
What's
I
the
mean,
matter?
I'm sure you figured, you thought just, because everybody was worried when we were doing the Brett Martell interview that you were asking all the questions. I was like, no, guys, look, relax. I'm doing the picks. I'm making sure the stream is up before we move. It's fine. We talked about this before. It's all good. I'm about to wreck his world after this segment.
So your YouTube Nation wanted you to ask questions.
By the way, they're enjoying this too. I mean, they're enjoying it. They said that last segment was one of the best ones that we've had. So I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there, dude. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing.
You're doing something. Well, this segment's going to make you look better because, of course, it's College Pick'em segment.
It is.
I'm horrible. You're better than me.
So is Jeff.
Jeff's better than me, but he's not here. He's going to make his picks after the fact. Well,
Which
at least
I gave him, so
tomorrow.
he cannot say that I did not give him the picks.
So he better get his picks in before the kickoff 11 a.m. Saturday morning. Is that his deadline, I guess?
Actually, no. His deadline is literally today because one of the games that I have on here, which is our first pick out of the chute, is tonight. So
what are the records first?
So let's go into the records from what we had last week up until this week. So last week, Larry, like I said, you weren't that bad.
Okay.
We were both tied. We were both 5-5, so you're 500.
All right,
you're
so
getting a little bit better.
I didn't lose any money.
No, you didn't. Jeff was 6-4. So going into this weekend, the records are: Jeff is 35-35. You are 31-39, and I am 39-31. So
you got a 10-game lead on me?
I'm just saying, bro. I mean, hey, look, I had a really good start. I got to pick it up, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to totally pick it up. So let's start with the first game of the weekend that we're going to choose today is tonight. Tonight is number 20 Stanford going on the road to Oregon State. Oregon State that is without his head coach, which I recommend if you go read the story about former coach Gary Anderson and about the entirety. I think it was in the Oregonian about him and his text with, I think, Canzaro, who writes for them about the entirety of the season before he ends up quitting. It's a very good read.
P.S. It is a sister advance publication, which we're
shameless plug.
Yes, of the Times-Picayune NOLA.com. But go ahead.
So this game, Stanford is a 20.5 point favorite. Stanford also with clearly a Heisman also front runner in
Christian McCaffrey.
No,
he doesn't play for them anymore.
Bryce Love, which is who I think is averaging over 100 yards a game this year for the Pac-12. So Stanford 20.5 points at Oregon State. Who you got?
I'm going to give no analysis. Stanford.
I don't understand why you don't give any analysis.
Because I don't know anything. It's just totally all a stream of consciousness. That's why I'm 31-39. I give no analysis.
That's true.
Stanford.
Although you're right on this one. Clearly, Oregon State is 1-6. They're 0-4 in the Pac-12. We're talking about boats and we're talking about sinking ships. There's a lot of holes in that boat. So Stanford is by far.
Do they have a captain of the boat?
They do have a captain of the boat. I can't. Except they're all rowing in the same direction. So they're circling and then they're sinking. So it's kind of like
so many bad puns just
now. So many. All right, next game we're going down south, back to the SEC, a little bit more in our wheelhouse. One of the teams that we talked about in our last segment, and one coach specifically who talks in platitudes as well, Tennessee on the road at Kentucky. Kentucky is a 5.5 point favorite.
So they're at Kentucky?
At Kentucky. Kentucky is favored by 5.5 points.
Look, Tennessee's they're going to quit on Butch Jones. I'm going Kentucky. Kentucky's feeling frisky, and yeah, that's it. Frisky, like a cat, like a wildcat.
Like a wildcat. I'm not even going to touch
cat
that.
Food.
I'm not touching that, dude. I'm not even going to pretend to touch that.
You just did.
Okay. Frisk the cat. The thing, though, I want to go back and check because I think every time we pick Kentucky, they've lost.
Oh no. I feel like I picked Kentucky to beat Florida. Or was it to cover against
No, you
Florida?
picked them to cover, but they still lost.
Oh, well, I don't care about that.
I'm just saying.
We're against the spread.
We are against the spread, but I just have a feeling that Kentucky is literally going to make us depressed again. And I think that Tennessee has this one. I think Tennessee can cover. Even if they lose, I still think they can make this game close. Because right now, I don't have any faith in Kentucky. And I don't have any faith in Tennessee. I don't care who wins. I just think that 5.5 is a little much. I'm going to go with Tennessee on this one.
Okay. All right. The Butch Jones watch, it still continues.
It's still, yeah, it's going to continue the rest of the year. I don't think they fire him before the end of the year, by the way.
No, what's the point at this rate?
Even though with a new athletic director and this whole change, but they're a bigger fish to fry in Knoxville for sure. All right, this game is a straight pick 'em. There is no line. It's straight even. It is Mississippi State at Texas A&M. The Battle of Adidas, the Battle of Maroon Adidas schools in the Southeastern Conference. Another coach that we talked about in Kevin Sumlin with Texas A&M. Another team that is kind of starting to find its stride, but it's still not believable yet. And I really think that the game that they had against Alabama Texas A&M is how the LSU game is going to go next week. I think LSU will make a game of it early, but Alabama will have too much to pull it out late. So this game, straight even. State obviously a little bit on the uptick, going on the road to College Station and Kyle Field.
I'm going to give it to A&M just because it's at A&M. If it was at Mississippi State, I would go to Mississippi State. But I'm just going to say home crowd gets it done for them. The 12th man. Mississippi State thinks the stadium's going to fall when they shake and sway, so they're going to be panicked.
That's also true. They love to sway, though.
I've been in a press box. I covered a Texas A&M Texas Tech game back in like 2004, and I was freaked out.
Yeah, although I don't think that I went to Kyle Field last year for Thanksgiving. It doesn't sway as much, or it didn't sway as much as the old one did. So it's weird, even though because at Texas A&M at Kyle Field they actually have a sign that says, "Please be advised in the third quarter the press box will start to shake during the swing and all that stuff," and it still freaks you out. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. All right, next game, staying in the SEC, Vanderbilt at South Carolina. This is also another one that I can already tell you where I'm going.
Smelly. That's a smelly game.
I can tell you where I'm going because I'm not even going to pick. I'm not picking this team ever again. I'm not doing it because they have disappointed me all year. Vanderbilt on the road at South Carolina, going to Columbia. South Carolina is a 7-point favorite.
I'm going to go South Carolina, the Fighting Mush Champs.
Absolutely. Don't bet. Guys, if you're listening to this, please don't ever put money on Vanderbilt ever again. Don't
put any money on every.
It's not worth it.
Well, Clyde gets your picks right. Don't ever put money on anything.
But I'm just telling you right now, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at any point. They have let me down all year. This defense was supposed to be way better. The offense was supposed to be at least comparable to at least make it interesting in the East. They haven't. I think the spread is too low. I would actually wish it was at 14. Play it up. Jack it up. 14. Jack it up, because that's what Vanderbilt deserves at this point right now. That's what they get.
Very bitter.
Very bitter. All right, moving to the Big 12. And this is a game that we can talk about that I think is going to be way more interesting than what I think probably people will give it credit for. Texas Tech on the road going to Norman at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 14.5-point favorite against Texas Tech. Now let's talk about Oklahoma last week being down for much of the game to Kansas State. There's a question about this Oklahoma team that I don't know if they can answer yet about what they want to be, who they think they are comparatively in the Big 12, and having two big tests with TCU and Oklahoma State still on the board, and them getting to a BCS Bowl or being in the playoff, I should say.
Yeah, I thought Oklahoma would be a team that could jump up and maybe surprise or stun Alabama, but they're shaky. Look, I'm going to take Texas Tech. Look, I obviously we know they can put up points, so I'm going Texas Tech with this game.
I agree. I think after seeing last week's game and then the Red River rivalry.
That's so weird. It's the shootout. Give me a break. It doesn't mean they're taking out guns and pistols and stuff.
Schooners, man, it's fine.
Yes.
But after seeing that game against Texas, seeing this game last week against Kansas State, I think there's some questions, and I think the spread is a little too big, especially for a wide flying offense. And I don't think that Oklahoma's defense will be able to keep it further than the 14.5-point spread. So I'm going with Texas Tech.
I'm looking at our picks, so we've only got one different pick.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I got to start flying off the handle, or I'm never going to catch it.
I wouldn't say that.
I'll just try to be smart for a week.
Next game. Probably one of the dark horses that I don't think a lot of people thought was going to be as good as they were. And this is going to be a very good game in the ACC. NC State on the road at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 7-point favorite.
I'm going to go NC State. I don't know why, but I just never trust Notre Dame. I think that's why.
Yeah, and I think Notre Dame exposed USC last week in a big, big way. And
well, they made me look foolish because I thought USC would compete, and they just throttled them. But I just prone to a letdown. I mean, look, NC State's a good team, so
they are.
I think NC State. Look, I'm not going to pick them to win, but I'm picking them to cover.
I'm picking Notre Dame with this one just because I think they might be for real, which is strange because I remember how I said last week.
I know why you're going with Notre Dame because Jesus said it's not cool to hate him, so you're back on board with Jesus.
That's not it. I mean, Jesus loves the little children, all the little children of the world. So there's that.
He loves everyone, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that his
But I mean,
shtick?
but we go with the children too.
All right.
I mean, that one's easy. I'm going with Notre Dame on this one, and then I would like to hear, especially if you watch that game, thoughts on Sam Darnold. And does this hurt his stock?
Does it
matter?
Because when I'm watching these games, that's what I'm watching for. Like I'll watch Wyoming to see Josh Allen. I'll watch UCLA to see Josh Rosen. I want to see what these prospects will be because obviously that's what I cover more than anything else, the NFL and Sam. Right. So I look at it in those sunglasses or what you say, but it has to hinder Sam Darnold. He's made too many poor decisions, And you can't be a total pick machine. I know last year Deshaun Watson had a lot of interceptions, and people were questioning his accuracy. I was not deterred by those because he would still get it done. And obviously in the biggest game of his life, he played incredible. And now he's getting it done in the NFL. But I do have question marks on Sam Darnold, for sure.
That's fair enough. It'll be interesting to see where he goes for sure. All right, next game, TCU, number 4 team in the country, 6.5-point favorite on the road at Iowa State. Iowa State, probably one of the hottest teams in the Big 12, getting a lot of pub. Kirk Herbstreit tweeted out last Saturday after they beat Texas Tech 31-13 that Iowa State should not expect to have their head coach much longer because a lot of teams are going to come calling. And of course that created an entire firestorm because it's like, we're little Iowa State, we can't keep our coach for much longer than a couple seasons after we get good. But literally this Iowa State team obviously has beat Oklahoma 38-31, they beat Kansas 45-0, and they beat Texas Tech last week. So TCU, probably their first big test of the year, really, going into this last stretch of the season, going on the road to Ames, Jack Trice Stadium in Iowa. So 6.5 points, TCU. Who do you got?
I'm a believer in TCU. I'm going with them. That's all I got. You just did the research for me, but you tried to con me to get.
I didn't try to con you. I was just giving
State.
You the information.
I'm going TCU. I'm not listening to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the feel-good story in Iowa State has been really, really good. But I think the biggest fear for me would be for a lot of people is how long are they going to be able to keep that up against these quality Big 12 sides. And I think TCU may be the team that I think we need to watch out for in the Big 12 as that CFP dark horse that could win. All right,
we got to go crash course here, and we only got probably short amount of time because we got to fit in another break.
This one's so easy. The world's largest outdoor cocktail and jorts party. UGA is a 13.5-point favorite against Florida this weekend rivalry game. Who you got?
Georgia might win by 30. I'm going Georgia.
Yeah, it's been a weird week for Florida, and Florida coach Jim McElwain, they announced this week that he's been getting death threats for the team's poor start.
Strange story.
It's a very strange story. A lot of people are naturally, caught off by it, but at the same time, though, it's one of those things where why bring it up now?
Two more games. Let's go quick.
All right, 2 more games. Oklahoma State, 7.5-point favorite at West Virginia.
West Virginia.
West Virginia for you. I'm going with Oklahoma State. And then our last game is Tulane at Memphis. Memphis is a 10.5-point favorite.
Sorry, Tulane. Memphis' offense is on fire. I've got to go Memphis here.
And that win against Houston where they came back last week was amazing. I think Tulane will keep it close, but I'm going to go with Memphis on this one.
All right, so let's see if I'm not an idiot. I'm willing to bet I will still be an idiot.
Yes,
so.
that never changes, Larry.
There we go. One more segment here as Clyde has jumped in Jeff's seat and ruining my hopes and dreams in life. So come on back for one more segment of that here, Sports 1280. NOLA.com and the iHeart Radio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Action-packed.
He's at the 5, cuts back in. He's in the end zone. Michaelon, he's got it in the end zone. Touchdown, Tulane.
Hard hit.
Running left side. Aruna's got him. Asking you shall receive. They don't get it. We win.
This is Tulane football. This Friday, the Wave visit the Memphis Tigers. Live coverage begins at 6, kickoff at 7, right here on the home of Tulane football.
Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Objectified, life stories of innovators, celebrities, and world leaders, told through cherished objects which have profound meaning. Super achievers like Tyler Perry, Mark Cuban, Martha Stewart, and Shaq show me, Harvey Levin, sometimes material things do matter. Objectified, airing twice Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, and again at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, only on Fox News Channel.
Hi, this is Jennifer Coolidge. The American Heart Association says the disco song Stayin' Alive is the near-perfect beat for hands-only CPR. If you see a teen or adult collapse from cardiac arrest, you only need 2 steps to help save a life. Call 911 and push hard.
All right, minute and a half.
Yes, to the beat of the song Stayin' Alive. Disco is back and it's saving lives.
Oh, so
To learn more, go to
Channel 4 Morning Show, Rhonda Shear
hands-only
was on the show
CPR.
this morning.
Really?
Supported by the
I love me some Rhonda Shear.
If you get caught drinking
Nice.
your social lifestyle.
See, those were one of those-
Teenager Larry loved Rhonda Shear.
That's fair. That's fair. I think I think you're not alone in that either.
No.
You're not alone in that at all.
ultimatepartyfoul.org to make
The
sure you
old
don't
B
get left
movies that would
behind.
come on USA.
Right.
The hospitality and tourism industry is more
Shoot, man,
vibrant
like I
and
grew up on
alive
that
in New
stuff too. Like I
Orleans
grew
than
up like my
almost anywhere
parents.
else
Like
in the
USA
country.
was like.
If you or someone you know like
Well, USA
all the
back in the
excitement,
day, because I'd watch
Delgado
wrestling,
Community
so I was
College
watching like
Yeah,
Prime
exactly.
Time Wrestling, and then Raw came on there.
Oh, yeah.
I loved USA. And even as a kid, they had the Cartoon Express.
Yes.
The program even offers job placement
And then, of course,
stipend payments
you
during
grow up
training
and
to
you grow into
eligible
Rhonda
applicants.
Shear.
Exactly.
Go to DCC.
And then you're like, man, do you remember that time? That was
A message
great.
From Sports 1280 communities,
New Orleans.
helping
Well,
to make a difference
is Jennifer
in New Orleans.
Coolidge from New Orleans?
Put a
That's why they
grand
like
in
popped up
your
in my head
hand.
just now.
Win $1,000 every hour, up to 16
let's,
times a day, weekdays.
Fire up the Googles.
Let's
starting
Google
at
her.
5 a.m.
Googles.
When you hear the keyword, text it to 200-200. Listen all day for a chance.
Yes.
10 seconds.
Shut
On
up.
Sports 1280, New Orleans. Dunc and Holder now. Josh Innes next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Take me down to the Paradise City.
What's going on
Jeff
here?
does his dances. I'm gonna give you like some like very light Axl Rose
What is
type
going
singing.
on here? Oh, boy.
No, wow. Looking up Jennifer Coolidge over here.
Well, she was on a spot.
Yes, she was, and now we
in the
know.
commercial break. No,
Or, like, now
she's-
we remember.
She's not from New Orleans. I thought she was from New Orleans.
But does she have a mansion in New Orleans?
I think she has a mansion in New Orleans.
Either way, man. I mean, that's you can be a native New Orleanian if you're a transplant. That's fine too.
Well, I brought it up because I was doing my due diligence as a husband of a Channel 4 employee, and it just so happens that Rhonda Shear was on the Channel 4 morning show, and I think she's pumping a book up all night, and I was just retelling Clyde how much I loved Rhonda Shear as a teenager, and I loved watching Up All Night.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much close to the same. We're close enough to the same age that, like, I remember that, and we were literally talking off air about how, like USA back in the day. I mean, for wrestling and for a lot of different things were just. It was just the channel. Like, that's what my parents watched. I remember watching, like, silk stockings and all these things.
Silk stockings.
Yeah, like silk stockings and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was just like, I remember that vividly. Like, that would be the network, and watching all those dramas, like all those late night dramas and stuff like that.
I feel like that's because you're a teenager and you probably didn't have HBO, and you're trying
Also true.
And you're trying to watch things, and
Yeah.
you're,
Well, I mean, there's
you're having feelings as a teenager, and
hey, man. Look, that teenage
hormones,
angst, that teenage angst that you kind of just need to just like you're figuring out the world. You're getting into high school. You're trying to figure out girls and all that kind of stuff.
Hence Stifler's mom, and that's again New Orleans
or
related.
Stacy's mom. That's fine. Yes, that is New Orleans related. That's true.
Man, look at the nonsense we get into. Jeff leaves, and then you and me get off the rails. I knew it. We were going to get off the rails at some point.
Well, at some point, I just want to be able to give him credit for like not going off the rails until the final segment.
Well, yeah, because we were having too much fun with picks. So,
right. Yeah. Speaking of picks, tonight Dolphins at the Ravens. Dolphins 4-2. Ravens 3 and who you got in that one? I just feel like it's going to be ugly.
That is just an ugly game. Yes, that is going to be an ugly game.
It's not going to be fun.
I'm literally just staring at your computer, and I'm seeing Dolphins and I'm seeing Ravens, and I'm thinking both are just ugh. I'm going to go Ravens. What's this? Do we know the spread?
No, but I can find that.
Okay. I'm just going to – I think the Ravens – when you're a home team, usually on a Thursday night, it gives you a little bit of an advantage. I mean, Joe Flacco's been terrible. Jay Cutler's not in, I assume. I assume it's going to be the Matt Moore show. I'm going Ravens. I don't know. It's just Thursday night football in general is just it's just not the best.
And let's talk about, there's a story that came out yesterday about all the different reasons. I think Awful Announces is keeping a tab of all the reasons why people are talking about why the NFL ratings are down. How about we just talk about the fact that there's a little bit of an oversaturation there. Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. there's a lot of NFL games on. There are a lot of games that, I mean, you have to plan in advance, but they all can't be good. They all can't be great. I mean, let's look
Just under 2 minutes.
I mean, let's look at the game from this weekend between the Patriots and Falcons. I mean,
you would have thought that had been a good game.
It would have been a good game, but it wasn't.
Right.
I mean, you know, we're not talking about teams like the Rams or other teams that are good in the league that aren't going to be on these slots that you would probably want to see, but you're not going to be able to see them.
Well, I think part of it is that you look at the teams this year, and the teams that are atop the leaderboard aren't these blue blood teams. New England's not this front-running awesome team, and look, they're gonna have trouble because they're now without Dante Hightower.
Yeah.
And you look at Green Bay. Look, if Green Bay would have started rolling and Aaron Rodgers, that would be a reason to tune in, but they're not the same. So it's just a wacky NFL season. It could get even wackier come Sunday, Monday. Hey, we'll see what happens.
And it's 3 points tonight with Baltimore going towards Baltimore.
So it's basically a pick 'em.
Pretty much.
I'm going to go Baltimore. So good show today. Appreciate everyone listening. Want to thank Brett Martell of the Associated Press. Want to thank Josh Katzenstein. And I said I would give away who would have on tomorrow's show.
30.
Saints Hall of Famer Carl Nix will be on our show tomorrow, 10:15. Carl Nix, awesome player with the Saints during that Super Bowl run. So, Clyde, appreciate you jumping in.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, Jeff will be back here tomorrow. Dave, appreciate all the hard work in the studio. So, coming on that next Josh Ennis show. But we'll be back here tomorrow. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Live
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
Chris Gordy.
Defensive
job,
end
dude.
for your
Hey, that was pretty good.
Saints taking some time out to jump on with us. Cameron Jordan joins us now. Cam, what's going on, man?
Just happy to be alive.
I hope that becomes a thing on your
another camp.
Jennifer Coolidge, Ron
we really need to
Deshear.
watch out for this season.
Somebody who hasn't been highlighted.
Imagine that. They've got
yet. Every time
some assets in common.
Yes.
I'm always talking about him. In my mind, he hasn't been highlighted enough.
That's putting it well.
Sheldon Rankins is a complete pro in year 2. By year 1, he was doing everything it took me 3 years to do. As far as mental process. By the end of last year, I was more impressed with him as an interior rush, than some guys I've seen across the league. In terms of what he's done, in terms of what he knows he can do. He came in and just jumped in the rotation.